Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Katie and today I am going to be trying out the Arteza real brush pens, but this is a little bit upsetting, so let me just order them. Give me a moment. There we go, there they all are, nice and in order. Let's pretend that half of them aren't on my floor and I was just trying to make it look nice and aesthetic for filming. But these are the Arteza brush pens. They have a real brush, they are water-based, and they are quite popular in the art community. I haven't tried these in a long time. I got some a while ago and I've just kind of not tried them. I did one picture with them, but I thought I would get them out again and use them because they look really cool. So I'm just testing them out on some watercolor paper, and they are really nice to just brush onto the page. It kind of feels like you're using a paintbrush even though you're not, it's a pen. I'm just adding the water on now, and these pens did come with one of those water brushes where you put water inside the brush, but I didn't clean mine, so it went a little bit funky inside, so we're just using a normal brush. And it surprised me that they didn't really blend or pick up the colour, but it might be because the watercolour paper I was using was just a little bit too absorbent and it didn't really work as I expected it to, like it does with Crayola markers, for example. But the way that I found worked better was if you dip the brush pen into the water and then use it like a paintbrush, a bit more like watercolour if you like, and that did help blend the colours better, as you can see with this yellow and orange. I'm doing it by dipping in the pen into the water and then just putting it on the page rather than adding the colour first and then the water. And as this is a nice brush nib, it was really satisfying to just like do doodles and squiggles on the page, and they are really pigmented as well. Another way you can try is by adding water on the paper first and then adding on the pen. Gives it a little bit more of a pastel look. That works quite well too. Again, much better than putting the colour down first and then using the water to spread it out. But yeah, these pens are really nice, so I'm going to try and do some artwork with them now. So because it's been a bit of a hot minute since I did Charlie, I thought it was time to do some Charlie art. So on my watercolour paper I did 6 little Charlie drawings, and I've been watching a lot of Doctor Who recently, so I decided to draw Charlie kind of cosplaying as some Doctor Who characters. So I used a Unipin liner to outline it because it's waterproof and obviously I'm using water. And I sketched it out first in pencil and then erased the pencil lines. I didn't use my light box, I just did it straight on the watercolour paper. And inking on watercolour paper is really quite difficult, and some of the lines were not as straight as I would have liked them to be. But that's okay, we're just having fun and doodling here. So first of all we have the 10th Doctor, who is David Tennant, one of the best doctors, and we have Charlie as a Dalek. He's kind of in the Dalek costume, and I think this is probably my favourite one because he just looks really adorable and not scary and not like a Dalek at all. But yeah, we will get to using the brush pens in a minute. I just thought I would show some of my sketching and inking process because I don't really show that too much on this channel, but because I wasn't using my light box I thought it would be easier to film. So now we are down to the brush pens, and for this one I used the brush pen first and then added the water, which was an error really. And you know, if I had maybe tried the pens out first before going into the artwork and not trying them out afterwards for the sake of filming, I might have rectified this problem, because at this stage I was getting a little bit annoyed because it wasn't quite blending with the water as I expected it to. But again, my own fault for filming this video in the wrong order. But yeah, and at this point I was like, oh, I wish I'd used watercolour, which was a sentence I never thought I would say because I'm not a massive watercolour fan, although at the moment I'm really enjoying watercolour illustration, this is why I decided to try these pens out in illustration, because I wanted to see how they worked. But once I got over this one, and it was really the coat that was the most problematic, I used the technique of dipping the pen in the water and using it that way, and using it more like a paintbrush like I'm doing now with Charlie's face here, and more with the Dalek as well. It actually made much more sense and it was a lot easier to work with. So, but I guess it depends on the type of paper that you're using. I'm only using some quite thick and absorbent watercolour paper. I don't know what type of watercolour paper it is off the top of my head. It's just pretty standard, but I think it's because it does suck up all the ink from the pen into the paper, so it is harder work for the water to break it down once you add water on top. That is my theory. So I'm not saying these pens don't work in that way where you lay the colour down and then use water. I'm just saying it didn't for me on my paper. But yeah, now you can see that I'm dipping it in to the water and then colouring it on top of the paper that way, and it really does work better. And the less water you use, the more saturated it gets, which is quite understandable, and you don't get that eating up of the paper that I was getting before. So this is Charlie as a Dalek. I decided to colour the Dalek in red just because it was a nice bright colour and definitely has that toilet plunger on the front, and he is just looking for some cheese or someone to exterminate because he wants the cheese all for himself. So if you are new to my channel, welcome. My name is Katie. I do art videos. I have some other product reviews on my channel. I'm not really quite sure you could really call this a product review. I'm just trying them out and just giving you my thoughts on them really. It's not really a product review, but I've tried some other products out on this channel, so there's a whole playlist if you are interested in learning about different art supplies. And this little mouse is my character Charlie. Like I said, I haven't done a video on him in a while, but I do have a whole playlist of stuff on him. I've been neglecting him recently and he's been a little bit sad, but he's happy now because he loves Doctor Who. And also I do challenges and speed paints and some collaborations as well, so do have a look around if you're new. Maybe subscribe if you want to, and if you like this video, you know, emotionally, do leave it a like down below as that really helps me out, and if you don't, Charlie will cry. So just finishing off the Dalek now, I did use my white gel pen to add some highlights, and I did have to go over some of the line work with my uni pen liner, which is a little bit standard for me when I'm using watercolour. That isn't just a trademark of these pens, that's something I do anyway, just to make sure the lines are at that little bit much bolder, because especially in my illustration style with Charlie, I do quite like that thick outline. And yeah, I do quite like the colour range that you get with these pens. I can't remember how many they were because they're just in a half a plastic bottle on my desk at the moment, because that's just where I keep them. It was a while ago that I got them. I think I got them for Christmas one year, and I have used them before, but I've just never really done much with them, especially in terms of video making, and they've been looking at me for a while, and because I've been getting into watercolour, I thought I should try them out. But yeah, they're a very good range of colour, and they do feel like really good quality as well. The brush is really nice. It does feel like you're painting with a paintbrush, especially when you're putting the marker in water. And the ink does come down quite quickly, and they are very saturated and juicy. So now moving on to the TARDIS, and of course this is a very nice bright blue. This is the TARDIS and the 11th Doctor, which is Matt Smith, who was just after David Tennant. And at first I was a little bit annoyed because I have a bit of a soft spot for David Tennant. I was a bit annoyed when Matt Smith took over, but actually Matt Smith was a great Doctor and I really love his fez. So I had to draw him in a fez, and he's coming out the TARDIS. So I couldn't draw a bow tie because that's not in view, because Matt Smith was very renowned for wearing his bow tie and fez, but we have the fez, so that's all good. So these layers did dry quite quickly. It dries quicker than watercolour because all I was doing was putting the nib of the brush in water, so it wasn't excessively wet like it is with watercolour when you just put a lot of water on the paper. So that was quite advantageous for me because I'm very impatient and I don't like letting things dry too much. So that worked out really well, especially for the TARDIS, because I laid it up quite a bit. I started with a lighter colour and then went up with a darker colour, and I did use a little bit sometimes without putting the pen in water, like on the very top layer, on the very deeper shadows, and the little bits of freckles in Charlie's skin as well. So now I'm moving on to a Cyberman Charlie, and I decided to do this as Charlie in a Cyberman outfit, and the shape of the head is obviously a mouse shape, and I also included the little tears that the Cybermen have because I thought that's quite iconic. It's quite sad. They're quite a sad little character, the Cybermen. They haven't had a good life and they're not the nicest, but I think Charlie looks quite cute, and I used a couple of greys, a mixture of cooler greys and blues to make Charlie look as metallic as possible, and I also used my white gel pen as well, just at the very edges, to give it a little bit of rim lighting. And yeah, I'm really pleased with how this one turned out. I think he looks quite cute and very sad, and not quite as cute as the Dalek, but he still doesn't look like a very evil Cyberman or Cyber Mouse, we should maybe say. And next we have the Weeping Angel, and these are again villains. There's mostly villains in this, but that's okay. Weeping Angels are a race of, I'm not quite sure what exactly they are, the actual word for them is. Someone comment down below and tell me their actual species. But they're kind of like stone angels, and they have their face covered and you can't look at them. If you blink, they will move and come at you, and they will touch you, and then you will get transported into a different time. So that is why Charlie is covering his eyes here. Looks quite adorable, but actually don't blink because Charlie will send you into a different time zone. And I tried to make it look as stone-like as possible. I used a brown and a grey to kind of mix it up and make him look like a stone statue, because they're all stone statues. And again, covered his face. And yeah, I'm really pleased with how the texture on this one came out. It was quite easy to do with these Arteza pens. It was quite easy to do with the method that I was doing, building up the layers quite quickly and using water on the nib to blend the two colours, because the brown and the grey kind of cancel each other out, so it was easy to get the shadows and the deeper parts of the stone. So yeah, this is Charlie as the Weeping Angel, and I think this one and the Dalek are my favourite. I haven't quite decided which one is my favourite yet. But let me know in the comments below which one of these is your favourite. Do you like the Doctors? Do you like the monsters? And also let me know what your favourite Doctor Who character is and who your favourite Doctor is. Mine are 10 and 11, and I'm not sure what my favourite monster is. I think I like the Weeping Angels because it's quite a clever idea, but there's just so much of Doctor Who that I love. And if you don't like Doctor Who, let me know what your favourite science fiction programme is. So for the final one, I'm not showing too much of this because it turned out a little bit creepy. I decided to do the Ood because they're an iconic Doctor Who character, and I dressed Charlie in his dungarees to maybe, hopefully, make it look cuter. But it didn't work. It just looks really creepy because what the Ood have, these kind of tentacle things and this orb that they're holding, as you can see, that's what Charlie's holding here. And it just looks really, really creepy. And I'm going to put a picture of the Ood on screen to show you that it's actually the Ood that are creepy and not Charlie. Charlie is adorable, but he doesn't look adorable as an Ood, and Charlie should not dress up as an Ood ever again, in my opinion. So once I had finished the illustrations, I added some little quotes alongside all my little Charlie Doctor Who. So we have Alonzi for the 10th Doctor, and I am a Charlek because puns are art too, guys. Puns are the best form of art. And also a couple of other little catchphrases as well. But that is all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching and listening to me ramble on about these pens. Let me know if you've tried them. I really like them. Not sponsored or anything, just thought I would give you my opinions. But that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now!